Story time. My name is Miranda Barber, and I am here to help you to identify and resist toxic relationships. Imagine waking up one day and your family is whispering, and coworkers are looking at you funny, and you find out that someone you're dating has spread the most vile lie about you that you can ever imagine. That's exactly what happened to me on more than one occasion, but we'll talk about one today, the most vile one. A smear campaign is a deliberate, systematic effort, okay, to damage a person's reputation, their credibility, and their public image using a mixture of lies, rumors, and distorted information. This is all to make the victim unbelievable and morally despicable, and it's done on purpose for numerous reasons in toxic relationships. One, so that the victim can believe that you're such a piece of crap, no one else will want you but me. And so you stay in a toxic relationship. Wasn't my case, but it happens. Another is so that if you try to tell anyone about the abuse, your reputation has already been damaged. And so very few people, unless they knew that person and their violent behavior, will believe you. Okay. So in my situation, I was working at the mall in a shoe store. And so it had a very high turnover rate. So people will be in and out of the store as cashiers and salespeople. And you'll have to forgive me because I really don't want to tell this story. Okay. But one girl came in one day and she was pretty cool. It was no type of feelings about it or whatever. But in our conversation, I found out that we live next to each other, not next door, but just a few blocks from each other. And she needed a ride home, so I gave her a ride home. And on the way home, we just engaged in normal chit chat that you engage in with a normal person when you meet them. So she asked me if I was dating anyone, and I asked her. And so I told her my story. I was like, I was dating a guy. He's in the Navy. And, I really liked him. We clicked, and it was just a really good situation at the time. And so I thought nothing of it, dropped her off. Didn't see her again for, I think it was maybe a year, 2 years. So now I'm in a toxic relationship, and we are in the middle of an argument. And in a healthy relationship, you ask people about their past and you talk about your past, whatever you're willing to share and whatever you're not, comfortable with at the time. And so he asked me, how many people I had been with, what were their names, who were they, and keep in mind that this is not a conversation we're having over tea, uh, uh, dinner. We're in the car and he's yelling and screaming at me. And I could tell that he's obviously agitated. So I don't understand in my lack of experience why this conversation will be a conversation that would involve anger and screaming. This should be a normal, typical conversation that you have with people as you get to know them. There was no uh, conversation about, hey, at the beginning when we met each other, that, hey, I only date virgins. Okay. Or there's no one, I expect the person that I date to never have been with anyone. Like that's ridiculous in most senses. Okay. And so the same on his side, right? He had a whole kid, but it wasn't about that. So he's screaming at me, trying to get me to tell him more than I'm willing to tell. Because at this point, I already know he's violent. He's already been violent with me. I've tried to leave the relationship multiple times and I wasn't able to. And so I'm feeling stuck and I'm just in it. I'm just in it, surviving at this point. So we pull up to the corner of a street, and it's like 15, 20 people outside. And this is normal in the summertime in the city, people just outside. So we pull up and he waves a girl over. It's the girl from a year or so back that I took home from the shoe store. And keep in mind that she didn't stay at the store longer than that. I don't even remember seeing her after I dropped her off again at the store. Now, I didn't work every day. I was only part-time, but just me personally didn't see her in the store after I dropped her off that day. In hindsight, who knows what that situation was. But anyway, so she comes over and she says, "Yeah, that's her." And I'm like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "Yeah, you slept with your cousin." And I'm like, "What are you?" Before I could even finish that sentence, I got backhanded in the mouth and so hard that my head flew and hit the back of the seat. So everybody erupts in laughter. I mean, erupts in laughter. And I looked dead at her and she was laughing. She was laughing. And then I looked at his face. I turned and looked at his face. He was driving the car, my car. Okay. And all the white was gone in his eyes. And I already knew what that meant. It was just downhill from there. So he knew this girl, and apparently they were talking about me, and he was asking me about the guy that I dated in the Navy. So I told him, I said, the guy that she's talking about from some years ago that I dated, he was my brother's girlfriend's brother at the time. Okay. And he was dating the sister. And I met the whole family and I met her brother. It was her half brother. But as Black folks, we don't say half anything, but just for the sake of the story. Okay. It was her brother, and we met, and we over time became friends, and then that developed into a relationship. He was a great guy, rest in peace. But later on, after we had broken up, he and I, sometime later, the sister and my brother gets married. So by the time I got into the relationship with the abuser, they were already married. So when I explained the story to him and when he talked about it, he said that that was my cousin. And then he went along and began to tell everyone who would listen in the neighborhood, where I worked, anybody, my family that he saw on the street, that I slept with my cousin. And to this day, people still think that I slept with my cousin. And I think that's one of the most, I try to get through these videos without crying, y'all. But that has to be the most evil lie that the abuser has ever told me.